Hello, and welcome to the Folklore and Fiction podcast. My name is Kelly MacCath-Moran. I'm a PhD candidate in the Folklore department at Memorial University of Newfoundland, and I'm also a speculative fiction writer under the pseudonym C.S. MacCath. The Folklore and Fiction podcast and dispatch synthesize these passions with a focus on folklore scholarship aimed at storytellers. You'll find the Folklore and Fiction archive, along with the rest of my work, online at folkloreandfiction.com. Interested listeners will find a link to the current dispatch in the show notes, where a more comprehensive record of this episode can be found, including a bibliography and other references. In this episode, I'll be exploring ATU 60, Fox and Crane Invite Each Other. I'll also be providing an exercise designed to help you adapt the tale type's plot and motif for your own creative purposes. Let's start with an example of the type from Russian folklore, a tale entitled The Fox and the Crane. The Fox and the Crane. The fox and the crane used to be good friends. They even stood godparents for the same child. The fox wanted to treat the crane to dinner and invited him to her house. "Come see me, gossip. Come, my dear, you'll see how nicely I'll entertain you." So the crane came to her house. Meantime, the fox had cooked gruel and spread it over a dish. She served it and urged her guest, "Eat, darling, I cooked it myself." The crane pecked with his bill, knocked and knocked at the dish, but nothing got into his mouth, while the fox lapped and lapped the gruel until she had eaten it all. After the gruel was gone, the fox said, "I am sorry, dear friend, but that's all I have to offer you." "Thank you, my friend, for what you have given me. You must come to visit me soon." The next day the fox came to the crane's house. The crane had made a soup and put it in a pitcher with a narrow neck. He placed it on a table and said, "Eat, my friend. That's all I have to offer you." The fox began to trot around the pitcher. She approached it from one side, then from another. She licked it and smelled it, but all to no avail. Her snout could not get into the pitcher. Meanwhile, the crane sucked and sucked until he had drunk all the soup. "I'm sorry, my friend. That's all I have to offer you." The fox was greatly vexed, for she had thought she would eat for a whole week. Now she had to go home with a long face and an empty stomach. It was tit for tat, and from that moment on, the friendship between the fox and the crane was over. Folklore scholar Lisa Gabbert writes that, quote, "The concept of the tale type is useful because it underscores the importance of variation in folklore," end quote, and later adds that when she assigns multiple versions of ATU 510A Cinderella to her students, it's because she wants them to see, quote, "how the story changes according to time period and culture," end quote. Folklore scholar Gianna Jorgensen writes that in her classroom, many students begin the semester hoping to uncover the original versions of Disney fairy tale adaptations, not realizing that they also contribute to the creative production of tales. These educators make two important points I hope you'll remember. 1. Each traditional folktale represented by a tale type has many variations across time and culture. 2. Your own creative work with these tale types and motifs counts as a variation. It's real, honest-to-goodness folklore. With these points in mind, let's take a look at how the Arndt-Thompson-Uther Index summarizes ATU 60, Fox and Crane Invite Each Other. Quote, "A fox, jackal, wolf, cat invites a crane, stork, woodpecker, heron, crow, snipe to dinner. He serves some soup, milk, mush in a shallow dish, and the crane cannot eat the food. The crane invites the fox to dinner in return and serves the food in a bottle." This episode of the Folklore and Fiction podcast is a preview, and you can listen to the full episode on the Folklore and Fiction website. Just click on the dispatch link in the show notes or go to folkloreandfiction.com and sign up for a free account. Thanks very much for your interest. Copyright 2019 to 2023. Kelly S. MacCath-Moran. All rights reserved unless Creative Commons licensing is specifically applied.